Welcome, this is Mary Pat Sullivan. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Travel Talk, where we gather our thought leaders from throughout the travel industry. Today, we're going to be joined live by three of my colleagues at ITB Berlin, where the whole industry is back together. They're going to talk travel trends, they're going to talk International Women's Day, and more. So, Walter, off to you.
Hello from ITB in Berlin. My name is Walter, I'm with PhocusWire, and I'm here with Soo-Hoon, the founder of Web & Travel Wit and the editorial director of Northstar Travel Group in Asia, as well as Charuda from our research department. She's the SVP of Research and Product Strategy. So, we're back in Berlin. First time in 4 years, so the pandemic cost us 3 years of ITB. Charuda, for you it's the first time, so I'll start with Soo-Hoon, who has been here many times. What are your first impressions? How is it being back together after 4 years here in Germany?
It feels very surreal, you know. Are you a fan of the Marvel Comics franchise?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is this moment in the Marvel Comics where it's called the blip, right? Mm-hmm. Where Thanos kind of snaps his fingers and then everything disappears, and then they reappears in a moment, but they forget that whatever happened before, right? And it felt like that. You know, I felt like we had all been just put on a pause button, and then suddenly somebody pressed play, and then all the actors started playing. So it just kind of felt very surreal. It was like nothing had happened, and the blip had just occurred, and now we're back in action. That was how I felt.
That's a good answer. And Charuda, for you, besides probably not finding your way because it's so big and so many people, what were your first impressions here?
It's huge. I mean, you know, I kind of expected it. I've heard for so many years that ITB is just crazy. You have to wear your flat shoes because you walk around a lot. Of course, I got lost trying to find the stage on the first day. But my impression is that just in general, people are happy to be here. You know, and we saw that at the PhocusWire conference as well. People are very, very happy to be back in person. I have not heard the C word, COVID, at all. So Except now, I said it. So, but it definitely feels like travel and the travel industry has left the pandemic in the rearview window, and we're ready, rolling. It's back to business, really.
Talking about back to business, one thing that I noticed here is, since you're from Asia, China is not very well represented at the moment here because they just opened up, and you see a few people that are from China. So tell us a little about the situation in general in Asia, what you see in China and so on going on.
Yeah, so, one of the first things I did was to walk to halls 25 and 26. And when I walked into the Asia hall, I had actually forgotten how diverse and colorful Asia is, To see Thailand back, Philippines back, Sarawak, everybody's back except China. And that's because, the opening of China was very last minute, right? So they couldn't get their act together. Plus, I think some of the delegates had trouble getting visas at this very last minute, and some had to enter via Spain, but people found their way. So there are a few Chinese startups actually who are here. So the news I know everybody's talking about China. I mean, China, I think the WTTC, Julia Simpson, reminded us at the convention that China still represents 15% of global total spend, so it's still a big hole to fill. But in Asia, I just got some data from a flight search company in China, and basically, as soon as the news came out of the opening, that the search just went up, right, like that. And the top destinations that they're searching for right now are Thailand, Hong Kong, Macau, Japan, and Singapore, for now.
So relatively close to the homeland.
Because remember when we first opened too, right? We didn't want to venture far except me, but we stayed very close to home. So I think the Chinese travelers will probably stay very close to home first, and test it, and then maybe later, maybe towards the end of the year, they might actually go further abroad.
And I'm not sure that, air capacity to Europe or to the US is back. And the bottlenecks that Soo-Hoon mentioned about visas, passport renewals as well are an issue right now in China. So we'll see it loosening up, but certainly at the moment it's not back, with a bang as I think some people were expecting it to be.
Yeah, and there was another data point that I got was Okay, so the searches are right now for Southeast Asia, and then later on Europe, but the slowest is the US for obvious reasons right now.
And today is the International Women's Day, so I'm very happy to sit here with two leaders of the industry in that
Every
space.
day is Women's Day.
And I just wanted
I'll
to.
agree with that.
Charuda was it today, right? On a session talking about diversity and women within travel. And especially travel tech is very male dominated. So what are you seeing, some trends here? Do you see more females coming in? Are these new technologies even opening it up that younger people, women and a more diverse population is coming into the travel tech scene?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there, right? One is that younger people, our surveys certainly show younger people are much more aware of the need for diversity, for having a culture that is more accepting of, all kinds of diversity. It's, whether it's gender, whether it's ethnicity, whether it's race, color, you name it. So that's part of it. And I think a lot more companies are now putting in initiatives and really focusing on bringing that diversity to their workforce, because they know the benefits, right? They've seen it, and there's a lot more, I guess, sort of awareness within the industry about the need to do better. I heard something interesting actually on the panel, was that Expedia has a goal by 2025 to have 50% representation of women at all levels across the organization, which is fantastic, right? Putting numbers is when you can measure something and then you can work towards it. Otherwise, it's just kind of some amorphous thing where you don't really know how to measure yourself, and so you're not holding yourself to a standard. So I thought that was fantastic that they have a goal that they're trying to hit, and even if they don't hit it, they're going to make progress towards it. And that measurable progress is really going to change the face of that company, certainly. And I wish more companies would do that as well.
Yeah, so Walter, at the opening session of ITB, the convention, I was really impressed by the Ministers' Roundtable, because on that panel there was the Minister of Tourism for Bahrain, Deputy Minister for Georgia, which is the host country of this year's ITB, and the Minister of Tourism and Sports for Croatia. And they were just amazing, dynamic, smart women, and beautiful. And they just lit up the stage, and I just thought, wow, this is wonderful. We're seeing women leading the recovery of tourism in their countries, and they really are putting in policies that will help them build back better, especially for Croatia. I think it's like a population of 4 million with 20 million tourists, so they really need to rethink tourism, and she's got a plan. And then yesterday, walking through the hall of Asia, Thailand, the Thai princess made a showing, and she was accompanied by entourage, and the whole hall stopped. And this is a powerful moment for travel, that there's this sort of commitment from governments, political will, and also, from royalty, that tourism is truly back, and it's really, really important in solving the problems of the world. So I'm really, really, pleased by that.
So that's kind of good news, which is great to hear on the International Women's Day. So great to see, hopefully, more diversity and not just the old white guys sitting
you're
on
not old, Walter.
Getting there quickly. Okay, we're soon getting up to time. So what I want to do is rapid fire, which from the big event and
To be on the receiving end of a rapid
Yes.
fire is not fun.
So
All right, but bring it on.
I just throw out a few words, and you might have already talked to that, and you just give a very quick answer to your first thought that comes up. I'll start with Metaverse, and Suhoon, you go first.
Fun.
Hype.
Blended travel.
Reality soon.
Oh, I'm all for it.
Tourism activities.
Growing, emerging.
It's the only reason I travel.
The future of work.
No work.
I would say it's hybrid.
Accessible travel.
Necessary.
Absolutely necessary.
Digital nomads.
Are here to stay.
It's always been, it's just mainstream now.
Corporate travel.
We'll be back at some point.
Blended travel.
Generative AI.
User-friendly is the future.
Beyond promising.
Short-term rentals or hotels.
Hotel.
In Berlin, hotel.
Berlin or Singapore.
Singapore.
Singapore, of course, where the
You
food is
did.
wonderful and the sun is warm. There's no snow on the ground.
That's true. And last I've been there, pouring rain when we went to the Formula One race. Okay. Okay, let's close it out with the last question. Tell me the coolest thing you've done or seen here in Berlin.
Painted sections of the Berlin Wall. So I learned something. I did not know that they actually, when they broke down the wall, people took pieces, painted them, and then sold them. And apparently the government encouraged it.
I think the most interesting thing is how global food courts have become. You know, Singapore, the concept of food courts, right? Where you walk around and you can order from different places. Well, it's arrived in Berlin. It's a place called the Manifesto Market. It's in the place. And you can go in there and it's got Korean, Japanese, Thai, Vietnamese, Greek, whatever. And the international food court, inspired by Asia, has arrived in Berlin.
Nice. Thank you, Suhoon. Thank you, Charuda.
All right, thanks so much to Walter and our team live from ITB Berlin, and thanks to all of you for joining us for this episode of Travel Talk.